GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network.
Well, yep, the soundboard works, Ryan.
It's episode 143.
Episode I Love You, people, 143.
It's funny, breaking down the fourth wall real quick. I know it's one of my favorite sayings here on the podcast. I asked John if he was ready to go, and he said, the soundboard ain't up yet, but we'll figure it out. And we can confirm it does work.
There it is. Basically, what you heard there, folks, was the sound of how the Dallas football Cowboys played last Sunday.
Yeah, it was not good for them, but it was really good for the Buffalo Bills. We're here to talk about the Buffalo Bills versus the Dallas Cowboys. As always, you can hear us, myself, Ryan Wolfe, and John Cimino on BetterLiveThanDead.com, GearNetwork.com, wherever else you listen to podcasts. As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date in the latest podcasts. Just to jump in head first, John, the Buffalo Bills put the football world on notice. I mean, we have been talking the past few weeks about how the Buffalo Bills have been improved, looked a lot better.
Yep.
They went in and handed the Dallas Cowboys a very, very, very tough loss. Very convincing victory for the Buffalo Bills, though.
Yep.
And honestly, John, the first time in a long time, the Buffalo Bills have put a full game together on offense, defense, and special teams. And the Bills are white hot right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're the team right now that no one in the AFC wants to face right now. They are on that hot of a streak that you have the teams above them that are really, really, really hoping, fingers crossed and praying that everything stays the same week to week and that the Bills are not in the playoffs, because I don't think any team at this point wants to see this Buffalo Bills team in the playoffs.
Well, and that's the one thing we'll talk about here, too, moving forward. But really, it's just about the Bills don't control their own destiny currently because of some stupid losses earlier this year. But the one thing that they can do
on behalf of the New York Jets, I'm sorry, guys.
What they can continue to do is put pressure on other teams to not allow them to make mistakes, like the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins still lead the division. We'll talk about that in a bit. But again, Buffalo keeps winning. They keep putting pressure on. Now, Buffalo improves to a league best 16-2 in December and January regular season games since 2020. And John, I don't want to waste any time because there's a lot of really good stuff to talk about with this football game. So I'm just going to jump into our three big things here, which are
hey, how about you jump right into the three big things?
Thank you. Brought to us by PuckLuck.com, your one-stop resource for all your National Hockey League sports betting action. PuckLuck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. PuckLuck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, as always, PuckLuck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League, its teams, or the NHLPA. PuckLuck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Now, John, wrapping up the offense. These numbers, if you did not watch the game, are real and consist of the entire game. Quarterback Josh Allen was 7 for 15 for 94 yards and 1 touchdown with 8 carries for 24 yards and a rushing touchdown. Josh Allen tallied his 10th game this year with both a rushing and passing touchdown, setting a new NFL record. He was previously tied with Kyler Murray, who had 9 such games in 2020. Josh Allen also raised his league lead in total touchdowns to 37. He is 3 touchdowns away from another first-time NFL record, which we're going to call that one a cliffhanger in the business. Josh Allen's 15 pass attempts set a new career low for Allen in a victory. And post-game, Josh Allen had an all-time quote here, John. He said, quote, close out this pop-up here. He said, quote, "I felt like the kid that didn't do anything in the class project and got an A. That definitely feels about right." But hey, for the first time in a long time, John, it feels good to have the Buffalo Bills not win a game on the back of Josh Allen.
Right. And I think probably for Josh Allen, it probably felt pretty good that he didn't have to necessarily be the dog, God Allen to some people. And keep the Bills afloat. The offense they did their thing. Defense shut the Cowboys down. I mean, I know we were talking last week about the type of team Dallas is, not playing at Jerryland. And you're going to, you come to Buffalo, the weather was what it was. It didn't rain as much as I think they thought it was going to, but still cold, windy, Western New York, December, football, Bills Mafia, those crazy cats.
Josh Allen weather.
We call that Josh Allen weather. You call that a Dallas Cowboy loss, because damn well they were not ready for what was happening. The Bills had more to play for, honestly, than the Cowboys did. It showed. And don't get me wrong, Cowboys are still, we're still going into there in contention, leading the NFC East, but also fighting to, try and get that number one overall that everybody wants, right? Whereas the Bills are fighting just to hope to get into the wild card right now. And
I wouldn't even say they're fighting for that right now, John. They're literally fighting to be able to fight the next week. I think that's where the Bills are at right now.
But every
week for the Buffalo Bills is a playoff game at this point.
Yes, and whatever level that they're on right now, that's the level that they need to be on. And they, it's great when you have a team that has so much success constantly, right? And the Bills have had that. It's almost become an expectation that the Bills are going to win this game. The Bills are going to play, dominant offense. They're going to shut people down on defense. They're going to do that, right? And it really, when your backs are against the wall, how you rebound from that really determines, what kind of, mentality you have there. And all of the kidding aside, all of the memes aside, all of the news that's been happening and all that, Allen really has taken on his role as a leadership in leadership there. That team has rallied around him. And this was the week that the team rallied for him, not because he was incapable of playing. He just didn't really need to this time. He didn't really need to do a whole lot. And that's a good thing, especially this late in the season with a position that important and the player like Josh Allen, who is a player like Josh Allen. Like, that dude is flat out a dog.
Hey, the saying goes, John, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And
yep,
that's really what happened to the Dallas Cowboys. Now,
I would argue that's what happened to the Bills too. They got punched in the face. They had a plan until they got punched in the face this year, and they were like, "Whoa, wait!" And they very clearly,
with the Buffalo Bills, though, John, I think one could argue that might be a self-inflicted punch in the face.
Maybe
because a lot of the problems the Buffalo Bills had prior to this, offensively, for instance, had to do with things like not getting guys like James Cook the ball, running back James Cook, who had 25 carries on Sunday for 179 yards and a touchdown, as well as 2 catches on 3 targets for 42 yards and 1 touchdown. It's at Kyle_Borg, B-O-R-G, of the fantasyfootballers.com quote, James Cook sporting a ridiculous 31.1% TPRR. That's targets per route run since new offensive coordinator Joe Brady took over. Cook has seen 30% of Buffalo's rushing attempts plus targets, the highest mark of his career for any 4-game stretch. Cook had a career-high 221 yards from scrimmage, the first Bills since running back Thurman Thomas in 1991 to record 200-plus scrimmage yards, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown in a single game. So the career yards from scrimmage, the career-high 221 yards, the most by a Buffalo player since Fred Jackson recorded 227 yards from scrimmage in Week 17 of the 2009 season. It was January 3rd, 2010 versus the Colts. 179 rushing yards are the 17th most in franchise history in a game and the most since Fred Jackson recorded 212 versus Indianapolis in the aforementioned Week 17 matchup. Cook is also the first player to record 200-plus yards from scrimmage against Dallas since running back Todd Gurley. I would say a blast from the past, but this only happened 6 years ago. Todd Gurley recorded 215 yards from scrimmage on October 1st, 2017. I still got more, John.
Oh, boy.
Cook is the first Bills player to have at least 100 or to have 100-plus rushing yards and a half since LaShawn McCoy recorded 106 yards in the first half against the 49ers on October 15th, 2016. It's also the third most yards from scrimmage by any player in the NFL in a game this year, and the second most rushing yards in a game this season by any player in an NFL game behind Miami running back Devin Achane, who had 203 versus the Denver Broncos on September 24th, 2023. Cook is also the first Bill with 5 straight 100-plus yard scrimmage or yards from scrimmage since LaShawn McCoy had a 5-game streak during the 2016 season. That's games 11 to 15. It's also Cook's third 100. There's so much.
There is. Tell me if you need to tag me in. I can read the rest here.
I'm just reading it. I'm remembering how much I actually put here. It's Cook's third 100-plus rushing yard game of the season. He had 123 versus the Raiders and 109 versus Denver. 25 rushing attempts were the most by a Bill since LaShawn McCoy had 26 rushing attempts at the Jets on November 11th, 2018. Cook is the first Buffalo running back with a receiving touchdown in back-to-back games since Thurman Thomas did it in 1995. Also, per ESPN's Ed Werder, Cook was first contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage on only one of his 25 rushes on Sunday. Cook averaged 4.2 yards per rush before contact. Cook is the third player in the last 2 seasons to average at least 4 yards before contact on 25-plus rushes. James Cook also heads into Week 16 second in the National Football League with 968 rushing yards behind only 49er running back Christian McCaffrey has 1,292. Cook is 32 yards away from his first career 1,000 rushing yard season, which Buffalo has not seen since 2017 when LaShawn McCoy had 1,138 rushing yards. Cook also heads into Week 16 third in the National Football League with 1,401 yards from scrimmage behind Miami's Tyreek Hill at 1,557 and Christian McCaffrey at 1,801. Now, that yards from scrimmage.
I would argue, Ryan, everything that you've wrote and still have yet to read for James Cook here. James Cook himself could have just been the first of the 3 big things.
I mean, he literally has an entire page of statistics of what he did on Sunday.
That's unbelievable.
No joke. I did some research on this one here. The leader in the clubhouse, running back O.J. Simpson, owns the franchise record with 2,243 all-purpose yards in 1975. The last time Buffalo...
You know what else he owns? Never mind, Ryan. Never mind. You busted me. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was cautiously stopped because my brain went. There are about 6 ways John could go right now. Which one of it's going to end our podcasting career?
He knew, folks. He knew. That was what I like to call the good old fashioned JC Money mind reset there, Ryan.
I just saw a ghost there for a second. So the last time Buffalo saw a performance like Cook's in a season was in 2016 when LaShawn McCoy tallied 1,623 all-purpose yards. Now, John, this could mean something. This could mean absolutely nothing, but a very interesting trend for some reason. So the high water mark was set in 1975, but I started from this season and went backwards. So every time I hit a new high water mark, CJ Spiller had 1,703 all-purpose yards in 2012.
Wow.
Travis Henry had 1,747 all-purpose yards in 2002.
Holy cow, I forgot about Travis Henry.
Running back Thurman Thomas had 2,113 in 1992. So for a 10-year span there, or for, 92 to 20, that's what, 20 years? I can't.
92 to 22?
Good Lord. 92 to 12. 92 to 12.
92 to 12 is 20 years, yes.
So for that, from 92 to 2002, it was Thurman Thomas. From 2002 to 2012, it was CJ Spiller. And then it, kind of went by the wayside in terms of keeping the trend alive. But just weird random number stuff that I find completely irrelevant. Tell me to shut up whenever. But for his efforts, John, James Cook named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, which shockingly is the first time a Bills running back earned the Offensive Player of the Week honor since Travis Henry did it in Week 6 of the 2002 NFL season. That was a while ago. John, give me your thoughts on James. Actually, sorry. Give me your thought on let James cook.
I will say, go ahead, let James cook. The more James cooks, the more James cooks, the less Josh Allen has to do. And the less Josh Allen has to do in these winding weeks, these very important weeks, don't get me wrong, but these winding weeks, the less he has to do, the more he may be able to do during playoff time, the more rest he may have during meaningful playoff games. I genuinely, Ryan, I believe wholeheartedly that Buffalo is going to make the playoffs. I don't think Miami's beating Dallas this week. Like, I just don't. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Well, what I'm saying is I can't imagine that this Cowboys team, as proud as they are, playing how they play in Jerryland anyways, coming off of just a unbelievable shellacking in Orchard Park, they're not going to go back to back.
That's a very humbling loss for the Dallas Cowboys. And Miami, Miami doesn't want to, as Miami, which, mind you, let me just get this popped up real quick while we're talking about it, because I did not want to forget this. John, we are in the midst of history on Sunday. I don't know if you knew this.
I did not. I don't know. Well,
the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins will be the first game. Dallas versus Miami will be the first game in NFL history between teams with 20 plus combined wins, but one or fewer wins versus teams above 500. Dallas is 1-3 above against teams above 500, 9-1 versus teams below 500. Where Miami 0-3 versus teams above 500, 10-1 versus teams below 500.
What would happen if they tie this game, I wonder?
Right now, judging by the statistics, I'm not a mathematician, but looking at the stats and what we are seeing, a tie is very likely.
That would be hilarious.
Although it wouldn't be hilarious for the Buffalo Bills playoff hopes, but it would be hilarious because
just for the circumstance, but
they just can't win. But here's the thing, being Miami, not to veer too far off here, being Miami, they're finishing their season against Dallas, Baltimore, and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You're telling me that's like a murderer's row right now. And especially that Buffalo game. I'm telling you, week 18's for the division. I'm calling my shot right now. Week 18's for the division.
I got something for you a little later on that, but I want to jump around real fast because we're talking about running. I don't want to skip over Stephon Diggs. Don't want to forget him, but talking about how this offense has changed and allowing Josh Allen to kind of take a step back and do what he needs to do when he needs to do it. Putting a bow on the O, running at will. As a team, Buffalo ran the ball 49 times for 266 yards and 3 touches. 266 rushing yards marks the most in a single game in the Sean McDermott era. It's the most rushing yards Dallas has allowed since allowing 294 at Baltimore on December 8th, 2020. But the big thing here, interim offensive coordinator Joe Brady confirmed on Tuesday that running the ball as much as they did was not the game plan, but they adjusted in game. That last part of the sentence, they adjusted in game.
Absolutely.
Not something we normally see with the Buffalo Bills. We've talked about it with Sean McDermott. They'll come out hot on defense, and then they'll just stick to the game plan and get embarrassed.
Absolutely.
Joe Brady said, quote, "It wasn't broke, so why try and fix it?" But here's the crazy thing, John. We've seen this happen all the time in football. It's basic X's and O's. I mean, again, we're just podcasters. We just like to watch football and talk shit to people or to each other or about each other. But looking at just basic logic, if you've got a good running game, they stack the box. If you've got a good pass game, they usually pull people out to work in the passing game. That's probably the easiest way I can explain it. So, hey, pick your poison. Either you're going to let James Cook do his thing, or you're going to let Josh Allen do his thing. Either way right now, good luck to you because, James Cook, because it's not just a one-game thing, John.
No, it's not.
James Cook has looked good all year. His acceleration when he hits a hole is incredible. He's made a very big step this year, and this could be the difference.
It could be, and that's something, again, we've talked ad nauseum that they haven't always had the best run game, and it's been all the Josh Allen show, having to rely on his legs and his arm and his health, and dude couldn't get injured because if he you took him out of there, or he didn't run, for 100 yards or 75 yards or whatever, the Bills may have had a tougher time doing it. Now that they have a solid running that they weren't getting with their by committee last year or by Singletary the years before, now that they have that, they're smart to use it and realize and the fact and give credit to Joe Brady for this one, seeing it and adjusting it in game, saying, dude, we got to make it's not about getting the sexy stats with our superstar guy. It's about winning games and staying alive. This guy is
that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yep. This guy right here, you're giving him the rock and he's doing things, Joe Brady has got that wire right down to Josh's headset saying, give him the rock.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's no surprise. Like it allows the Buffalo Bills to to drain the life out of a football game. They, per
Mhm.
OptaStats, John, Buffalo's the only NFL team in the last 30 years to have 3 touchdown drives of 11 plus plays and 75 plus yards in the first half of a game. The offense is back to being being second in the league in overall play success rate, second to only the 49ers. And Buffalo has averaged 29.5 points per game since Joe Brady took over the interim offensive coordinator reins. It's unbelievable how efficient this offense has become. Because again, Joe Brady hasn't changed a ton. Just again, you're working on those pre-snap motions. You're getting the ball to James Cook. You're taking the high percentage plays and running with them. No pun intended. And it's
Right.
working for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, again, a guy like Stephon Diggs, who had only 4 receptions on 5 targets for 48 yards, not a huge day, but just continuing to matriculate the ball downfield.
Right.
Stephon Diggs, again, major dog. Surpassed 1,000 receiving yards for the 4th consecutive season, becoming the first player in Buffalo history with 4 consecutive seasons of 1,000 plus receiving yards. He's on pace, John, for 166 targets, 111 receptions, 1,264 yards, and 10 touches. He's 9 catches away from his 4th straight 100 plus reception season. And that's only been done 4 times in Bills history. Diggs did it 2020 with 127 receptions. 103 receptions in 2021, 108 receptions in 2022, and then old friend Eric Moulds, 100 receptions in 2002. Speaking of a dog, that's an old dog right there.
Dog.
You got it.
You know what? Another thing, another old dog, an oldie but goodie. Latavius Murray, man. He recorded his 4th touchdown of the season on Sunday. It's his 9th consecutive season with 4 plus rushing touchdowns in each of those seasons. His streak of 4 plus rushing touchdown seasons from 2015 to 2023 is the NFL's longest active streak. If that ain't consistency, John, I don't know what is.
He's the model of consistency there, my friend. You are a dog.
And it's amazing too, because it literally is like that thunder and lightning. And I didn't include him in the podcast notes, but Ty Johnson, a guy whom we thought was headed to the unemployment line when the Buffalo Bills signed Leonard Fournette to the practice squad, who's, as far as I know, Fournette's still on the practice squad, unless I missed something. But,
I believe he still is.
But
let me look at that.
Ty Johnson has found a role in this offense, and it is really like the lightning is James Cook, the thunder or the bowling ball effect is Latavius Murray, and then Ty Johnson kind of comes in and is a mix of both. Really, it seems like it's very impressive to watch that 3-headed monster in the backfield. But moving over to the defense again. An incredible day for the Buffalo Bills on defense.
All right. So before you go there, because of my OCD here, I see an article from Heavy or MSN.com. It says here, Buffalo Bills running back Leonard Fournette could be the next man up, as speedy backup Ty Johnson is dealing with an injury while the team is facing a short week. So he is as of right now on the practice squad, but may be called up.
Playoff Lenny coming to the Buffalo Bills potentially. And while you mention that, I'm going to pop up the Buffalo Bills PR. There's only one bookmark on my podcasting computer, John.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Buffalo Bills PR Twitter. Looking at running back, I know James Cook was ill. Let's see here. Running back, he's questionable. He was limited all week with a shoulder injury. So he's questionable this week, but we move forward. Cornerback Christian Benford, John, recorded his first pick of the season. It seemed like the Dallas Cowboys were just picking on Christian Benford, like not in a bad way, just in a, like they just keep kind of egging him on, like,
right,
we're gonna tease you, it's coming, but you're not gonna get it. But he finally got his first pick of the season. And Pro Football Focus, again, I always preface this with, we all know how people feel about Pro Football Focus, but trying to find a way to put his dominance into form. His Pro Football Focus grade of 72.1 this season ranks him as Buffalo's best cornerback, which I believe Rasul Douglas has a higher grade, but he has not played the full season with Buffalo. Benford has taken the next step his next step that he's personally taken in his game has helped this Buffalo secondary take the next step to the next level. A lot of next in that sentence. I'm sorry. They're hard to play against, man. Like they talk about it in just a minute, but everything that the Buffalo Bills did on Sunday defensively was the right call. I mean, the only touchdown Dallas scored was in garbage time when the Buffalo Bills are playing third stringers. So, like, what do you want?
I don't know, man, but I guess you get what you pay for there. Not sure. I'm still looking at this Leonard Fournette article. I'm not going to lie.
That's okay.
Here.
That's okay. I'll continue on here because there's something I do want to talk about. I do want to talk about this coming up here.
He's called this. He's called it a humbling experience. So he's not. It's not saying that he's overly like thrilled being on the practice squad, but he's also not. He seems to be okay right now.
I think it's the same thing with Poona Ford. We have that. You have that thing where you sign a guy like Poona Ford who was playing very well with Seattle and had a big role, comes to Buffalo and is, third, fourth string, not playing a ton. It's just different players fit differently in systems. I mean, if James Cook wasn't effective or
absolutely.
Latavius Murray was hurt, Fournette would already be here.
Right.
But that's the thing about guys like that is that all it takes is an opportunity. Like Ty Johnson could not play this week. Fournette could come in and run for, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and you're like, who's Ty Johnson? Like that,
right? It's the embarrassment of riches, man. They got the next man up. They've got a good team around them. They've had the talent. They just didn't have the smart play calling early on in the year, and so they've always had the talent, and they were really good with stockpiling it with what they needed to have that next man up mentality.
Their own worst enemy. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Exactly.
Now, pressure on Prescott on Sunday. Buffalo did record 3 sacks. Jordan Phillips, Leonard Floyd each had 1, and Tyrell Dodson and Greg Russo split a half a sack each. They also had 4 tackles for loss on Sunday afternoon. Now, the Buffalo Bills defense, John, was pressing all the right buttons on Sunday afternoon. Buffalo appeared to be challenging Dallas by playing 2 high safeties, essentially telling Dallas, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us running the ball. But also, don't forget, pretty goddamn good at stopping the run. Now, Dallas ended the game with 20 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown, which did come in garbage time. CeeDee Lamb had a nice little rushing touchdown, which if anybody had him in fantasy, they're probably thankful that happened. Buffalo held Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott to a season-low 134 passing yards and marked only the second game this season that Prescott did not record a touchdown pass, which that happened in week 1 in the 40-0 victory over the Giants, which talk about a tale of 2 different games. But
wow. Yeah.
Here's the stat that I was chewing on during the game. I cannot tell you how fast I grabbed my phone to take a picture of my TV when this popped up. Buffalo held Dallas to 92 total yards through 3 quarters. The fewest since Dallas tallied 87 total yards in the first 3 quarters against Green Bay, week 9 during the 2010 season. Buffalo held Dallas to their largest first half deficit of 18 points since 2020, when Dallas trailed by 19 against the Atlanta Falcons on September 20th, 2020. It's also Dallas's second largest loss in the last 3 seasons, only behind a 32-point loss to San Francisco earlier this year, October 8th in 2023. Now, John, again, just an absolutely impressive performance. I mean, even if Buffalo can play at half of the dog that they played on Sunday, they're going to be perfectly fine. I mean, they play.
Oh yeah,
they're playing against the Chargers this weekend. We'll talk about that coming up soon. A depleted Chargers team in multiple aspects, but for Buffalo, it's more like don't fall into the trap. But also, I think that they've shown that after almost beating the Eagles, after beating the Chiefs and beating the Cowboys, this team is for real. They're getting hot at the right time of the season. Again,
that is
still a little early to get this hot. If because people say the vibes and whatever. But here's the thing: Buffalo's been playing playoff games for a month now. They can't afford to lose a game because the more they lose, the less chance they have of controlling any sort of their destiny. Where if Buffalo wins out and they go to week 18 and it plays out the way people expect it to, they control something. But right now, they're doing their job, and then they're going to the locker room after the game, looking at the scoreboard and going, okay, where do we stand now? Because again, Buffalo does not have a lot of tiebreakers, if any. Mm-hmm. But again, the losses that they had.
Well, the one that they own would be on Miami.
Yes. That's about the only one they have right now. But all of the Bills' losses right now are looking incredibly consequential. But again, get hot at the right time, control what you can control, focus on winning your game, and see how everything falls. Because right now, half the AFC is on backup quarterbacks.
Yep. which bodes well this coming Sunday against the
Yeah, I
Chargers.
mean-
Not that the Chargers were, a solidly good team that people needed to be afraid of to begin with.
I mean, running
But Justin
down.
Herbert is not a bad quarterback, and he's out for the season. So I don't know who the hell they have now, but
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to drop that on you in just a minute.
okay.
Here. Just running down the list, like seriously, the Patriots, the Jets, the Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers, Jacksonville might be on their backup because I know that they said that Trevor Lawrence was in concussion protocol. He's been banged up. The Colts, the Texans are going to be without CJ Stroud this week. The Titans are had Ryan Tannehill, went to Will Levis. Now Will Levis is hurt, going back to Ryan Tannehill. The Chiefs and Broncos are healthy. The Raiders are bouncing around. The Chargers, they have a hurt quarterback. So again, like the AFC is wide open, it feels like, and no one's really run with it. Even, I mean, the Ravens have been good, but they have not looked like they have not taken it and run with it. But
No,
again,
not at all.
before we move over to that and get to that portion of the podcast,
They might not have. They haven't really needed to, though, in their defense,
No.
I suppose.
That's very true. The game against Miami will tell us a lot for sure. But they also play the 49ers this week as well. That's a very big game for the Baltimore Ravens. But injury update: defensive tackle Jordan Phillips is week to week after suffering a dislocated wrist on Sunday. He underwent surgery on Monday, was placed on the IR earlier today. Safety Micah Hyde, defensive end AJ Epinesa are both listed right now currently as questionable on the Buffalo Bills injury report. But Micah Hyde is listed as out and AJ Epinesa is listed as questionable despite being limited all week with a rib injury. Both players, obviously Hyde's out and Epinesa unlikely to play. Big news though, defensive tackle Daquan Jones, who was lost in that gut-wrenching loss to the Jaguars in London earlier this year. He tore his pectoral muscle, had surgery. He's healthy. He's coming back. His practice window opened on Tuesday, opening up a 21-day opportunity for the Buffalo Bills to activate Jones off the IR. He's looked good in practice so far. Don't know if he'll play this weekend, but he is on the injury report as questionable. So we'll see how that turns out. And Sean McDermott also confirmed that linebacker Matt Milano is unlikely to return this season. Haven't really heard a whole lot on him aside from the fact that he was working on getting back, but I guess he's not going to be back in time for the season. So we'll keep an eye on it. But John, I want to move to our commercial break and get to wrapping this bad boy up because we got a lot of good stuff still to talk about here.
Yes, we do. Indeed.
We'll be back right after this commercial break with more Trust the Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network. And we're back here on Trust the Podcast. John, wrapping up week 15, our third of the three big things. And it is our Around the NFL segment brought to you by our friends over at Go Frost Yourself.
That's right. Located in Rochester, New York, Go Frost Yourself does what other local bakeries do not. They bake from scratch, creating recipes themselves and using the best, freshest ingredients that they can find to create delicious flavors for customers daily. Side note, I talked to Patrick Mahomes after last week's episode, and he said this: "They're really good." Molly and Jen, hi Molly, hi Jen, have worked tirelessly to create what Go Frost Yourself has become today, and their passion can be tasted in the items that they bake. When you find yourself looking for an item for a special occasion, or maybe you want to try their incredible cinnamon rolls, or if you're between job interviews like Brandon Staley, if you are local, you can visit Go Frost Yourself storefront at 2544 Ridgeway Avenue or at gofrostyourself.com. Back to you, Ryan.
John, we've got another firing in the National Football League. The Buffalo Bills opponent is going to have a new head coach this week.
Yes. That was I like to call a little bit of a segue in that Go Frost Yourself ad there.
The Los Angeles Chargers dropped an embarrassing 63-21 decision last Thursday night to the Las Vegas Raiders. They finally dropped the curtain on the Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley era. Staley fittingly finishes his Chargers tenure 24-24 in the regular season and 0-1 in the playoffs. They lost that big game. They blew that big lead against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, that Chargers job is going to be coveted this offseason by many due to the roster they have. Mm-hmm. I'm putting in my 2 cents that Bill Belichick is going to be the next head coach and GM of the Chargers, but apparently they are hot on Jim Harbaugh, which would make a lot of sense because Harbaugh played with them.
I see that. I still keep hearing the Belichick to the Washington Football Club.
That's probably what's going to. It's probably what's going to happen, just from what I'm seeing, mostly because Belichick wants a specific level of power, And there's rumors that, or the rumblings at least that have been out this week since the Chargers job opened up, was that Belichick would fire the owner's son, who's the president of football operations or something like that. And nepotism needs to survive in 2020.
I mean, how hilarious would that be, though? He comes there, owner hires him, brings him in. First thing he does is fire the owner's son.
Get out of here, you prick. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Hey, speaking of switching roles, man, Philadelphia announced on Sunday that they have promoted senior defensive assistant Matt Patricia to the role of defensive play caller, which that worked out very well on Monday Night Football. Patricia joined Philadelphia in the offseason. You may remember Matt Patricia as the old head coach of the Detroit Lions, offensive genius on the Patriots, which was a total disaster. More will know him as a very smart defensive mind for most of the Patriots dynasty, but Sean Desai remains the Philadelphia defensive coordinator, but moved to the coaching booth while Patricia coaches from the sideline. Top Reddit comment here, John. You've heard of quiet quitting. Well, get ready for quiet firing.
Oh?
They're just working on getting him fired, but they're not like going to do it right now, you know?
Yep.
You're not losing your job. You just don't have any responsibility. Now, CBS sports reporter Jeff Kerr pointed out since week 8, Desai's defense was 31st in points per game allowed, 31st in sack rate, and dead last in yards per game allowed, pass yards per game allowed. And then they were also dead last in yards per game allowed, pass yards per game allowed, third down defense, and red zone defense. So across the board, they pretty much just fucking suck.
Yeah, they're not good.
There's no other way to sugarcoat. I mean, they are bad everywhere.
Yeah, they're not good, man. And that's why I was not up in the hype when they were undefeated. Not at all. I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl.
Hey, man, in our Better Live Than Dead cliche handbook, you know exactly what I'm about to say. It's not about how good you are. It's about how you respond to adversity. And the Philadelphia Eagles, my man, oh boy, they have not responded well, I would say.
Well, from the next page in that book, that's a true story.
I was waiting for a fart, but that is also just as good.
Oh no, that's all the way in the end. We haven't gotten to the end of the book yet.
No, the farts are on page 69. I understand.
Yeah.
Clinching berths. Speaking of clinching berths, that's like stealing babies is what it sounds like. The playoff started clearing up.
I made it to page 69 now.
I appreciate that. Talking about stealing babies, what a time to be alive.
There you go.
With Green Bay and Atlanta's loss prior to their game on Sunday, Dallas clinched a playoff berth. Also, with San Francisco and Detroit's win coupled with Green Bay and Atlanta's losses, Philadelphia clinched their third straight playoff berth. And with their aforementioned victory, the San Francisco 49ers clinched their second straight NFC West title. And John, Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets officially eliminated from the playoffs for the 13th straight season. They will not be playing for the Lombardi Trophy. Any thoughts on that?
No.
Fair enough. Looking ahead, if the season ended today, the Buffalo Bills would be the 9 seed.
Actually, I do have one thought. First of all, I yield the rest of my time.
I appreciate that. I'm very glad that you let me have that moment for there. That was, I'm sure in post that's going to come out perfectly.
Well, we'll see.
Looking ahead, if the season ended today, Buffalo would be the 9 seed per tiebreakers. Houston would be 8th because they win the tiebreaker over Buffalo based on best win percentage in conference games. Indianapolis 7th. They win the tiebreaker over Buffalo based on best win percentage in conference games. The division tiebreaker was used initially to eliminate Houston because Indianapolis wins that tiebreaker over Houston based on head-to-head win percentages. And from the Department of, you can't make this shit up, John.
Yes,
per New York Times playoff predictor, based on 240,000 simulations, up from 49% last week. The Buffalo Bills have a 69% chance.
Nice.
Of making the playoffs. Right now, if the season ended today, again, we know it does not because we're still talking about games happening today. Mm-hmm. Baltimore would be the 1 seed in the AFC. Indianapolis would travel to Miami. Cincinnati would play the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, and Cleveland would head south to take on Jacksonville. In the NFC, San Francisco gets the week off. The Rams head to Dallas in what would be a slobber knocker of a football game. The Rams, to me, on a much lesser level, feel like the Buffalo Bills. The Rams are getting real hot at the right time. Cooper Kupp is hitting his stride after being hurt. Kyron Williams is hitting his stride after being hurt. Matt Stafford's hitting his stride after being hurt. It just sounds like if you get hurt in the middle of the season and come back, you'll be perfectly fine. But they would take on the Dallas Cowboys. The Minnesota Vikings and their 17 different starting quarterbacks head to Detroit to take on the Lions, and Philadelphia would get the raw end of the deal and have to go to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, despite the fact that their record will most likely be much better than Tampa Bay if Tampa Bay even manages to break 500.
That's it.
Now,
It's still insane to me that a sub 500 team potentially, just because the division they're in, could host a playoff game.
I think we talked about this before in the podcast, on this podcast, on Better Life Than Dead, and elsewhere. It really should be that the division title guarantees you a playoff spot, and then you're ranked based on your record.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree there. But again, Ryan, with things like that, with things like, talking about genuine overtime rules and all sorts of those, chats that seem to make seem to be common sense amongst the sports entities. Yeah. Only live through the podcast world, I'm afraid.
Absolutely.
Like nobody the higher ups. I can't imagine that no one up there thinks of these things. And just be like, oh wow.
They'll do it at a time when nobody cares anymore, to
make people care.
Or so when a good example would be maybe, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes wins 13 games, but the Broncos win 14 games, and then they go to play at a stadium that is a super home field advantage, and then they lose. Maybe that's when it will happen. But
I don't know.
Per Tom Bliss at Data with Bliss, or Datto, however the hell you say it, Buffalo at Miami in Week 18 currently has a league-leading 87% chance to have both teams still playing for quote-unquote something entering that game, whether it is a playoff berth, whether it is a division title, whether it is the AFC number 1 overall seed, something. That game, there seems to be a chatter back and forth, and good friend of the podcast, Chris Downey, hi Chris, is going back and forth with me throughout the week saying, I think it'd be great if the Buffalo Bills played Saturday night, because then you at least know who would be where going into Sunday. But the NFL, you can go into that game knowing whether or not both teams are in. Is it for the division? Whatever. We saw last year. Remember, it was last year, the year before, when the Jaguars and whoever else were playing, it was dog water. But because they were up for the division, they got the game. That's
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
Plus, then Miami can't use the heat to their advantage. Although I love the fact the NFL passive aggressively was like, Miami, you're coming to Buffalo when it's cold. Buffalo, you're going to Miami when it's not 950 degrees outside.
I feel like it. I don't know. I feel like it works better that way, to be honest.
Yeah, it's fair. It is very fair. Plus, also, John, if I may speak for you, the official stance of Trust the Podcast, fuck the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I tell you this, for as much crap as I get being a Jets fan off the clock, man, oh man, can I not stand Dolphins fans. And when they beat their chest, holy hell, we talk about Dallas, having not won a Super Bowl since 1995. And they're like, yeah, but we have 5 rings. And yeah, we have this. But next to them is Dolphins fans who are still, we have the only undefeated season.
The last time the Dolphins did anything of note, the football was white people, almost only exclusively white people. What's wrong with you?
I mean, Johnny Unitas was still alive.
What the coolest, the best thing the Miami Dolphin franchise has ever done, in my opinion, was be included in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
I do like what they did to Hard Rock Stadium though when they renovated it from the Orange Bowl.
Yeah,
I did. I do like how
Mike McDaniel. I'm very much all in on Mike McDaniel.
I like Mike McDaniel
recently, and I would be a much bigger fan of him if it's look at. I saw Aaron Boone today. I literally was talking to my coworkers about this. I'm like, it's so goddamn stupid that the Yankees make the people shave. Because what are we, 5 years old? I saw Aaron Boone with a beard today, and I'm like, that's a guy I'd want to drink a beer with that I've seen without a beard. And I'm like, you look creepy. You might drive a white van.
I speaking about that, I don't disagree. I can't remember who echoed the sentiment here, but the Yankees turn off a lot of potential, free agents that would come there under normal circumstances, because they want to play for the Yankees, want to play for the big market, the bright lights and all that, but they don't want to shave their beard. They don't want to shave, they don't want to be told to kind of still live or appear as if you were in the 1950s. Like, come on.
If I were an owner, Michael Phelps rules, you got to shave all your body hair off.
Would you be inspecting all of that?
I cannot confirm nor deny.
All right, that's fair.
We will put the job up for claiming on Craigslist.
There you go. You can do that.
I've seen some pretty scary job offerings on Craigslist. You can find some people doing some shit on that website. Yeah. Anyways,
Craigslist is for creeps.
Week 16, the Buffalo Bills at the Los Angeles Chargers. Kickoff 8 p.m. Eastern Time, a Peacock exclusive game. If you don't know what Peacock is, you're probably already screwed.
Yes.
It will be streaming. You can watch it. If you don't have Peacock, I'm sure you can find it somewhere. The Chargers are 5-8. They're 2-5 at home, last in the AFC West. Their interim head coach, Giff Smith. Giff, Giff. He is the Chargers outside linebacker coach, has been there since 2022. He was previously Buffalo's defensive line coach from 2010 to 2012, because it always ties back to Buffalo somehow. He was a defensive line coach when former defensive tackle Kyle Williams, and friend of myself, I don't know if he's friend of the podcast, I still have my Wolfe 69 jersey autographed by Kyle Williams up in front of me.
I remember that. Boy, were you hammered, Wolfensteiner.
Oh my God. I remember snippets of that evening. We'll talk about that someday.
I remember you talking in cursive, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Like I
remember falling. I was unconscious.
Fell in the elevator.
I was unconscious during a fireworks display that was going off 100 yards in front of me.
Yeah.
I had no clue that it was happening. It was a great time.
I had to hold you up in the elevator, dude.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I do.
I don't remember that. Defensive tackle Kyle Williams was named to the first 2 Pro Bowls of his career under Giff Smith's direction, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
The interim GM, JoJo Wooden, he's been the Chargers director of player personnel since 2013. I suppose that's probably the best decision there. Mm-hmm. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert out for the season with a fractured index finger on his throwing hand. Charger quarterback Easton Stick, not a fake name, a real name, not Madden generated.
It's that's where I was going. It sounded like a Madden generated like defensive end.
Last week's 63-21 loss was his first career start. He has appeared in 3 games since being drafted by the Chargers in the 5th round, 166 overall of the 2019 NFL draft. He has 440 career passing yards, 3 touches, 1 pick. Matchup predictor here, 79.9% of America believe Buffalo will defeat the Chargers according to ESPN Analytics, and without help, Buffalo's playoff chances bump to 76% with a win per New York Times' playoff simulator. But John, I will keep you posted on that throughout the week.
Of course.
And with that, I don't mean to wrap this up so quick, but I can hear my daughter screaming and running around upstairs like a crazy person, so I probably should wrap this thing up.
Well, then in that case, Boomer, take it away.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
For John Cimino, I am Ryan Wolfe. As always, we are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
We'll catch you same time, same place next week. Have a safe, happy, wonderful Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Oh, Christmas,
Good
buddy.
Lord. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Smokey Robinson. Happy Chanukah.
Well done, Ryan. Very good.
It has been stuck in my head for the last 3 weeks now.
Very good there.
But again, enjoy the time with your family, with your friends, by yourself, whoever you spend the holidays with. Enjoy the time, enjoy the football, enjoy the food, the presents. Just enjoy everything.
My Puerto Rican people, enjoy the coquito.
Enjoy the Bills too. And as always, John, thank you for joining. Safe and happy holidays to you and your family, and
to you and yours as well.
Thank you. And as always, my friends, thanks for tuning in. Go Bills.
Ciao, ciao, y'all.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.